Hi, this is Russell Glasser, host of The Atheist Experience. You know, The Atheist Experience is made possible by volunteers and the generous support of viewers like you. If the promotion of positive atheist culture and separation of church and state are values that you hold, please consider contributing by becoming an ACA member or visiting our product page at evolvefish.com under the Partner tab. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Atheist Experience. I'm your host, Russell Glasser, and with me today is Martin Wagner.
How you doing?
And we don't know what we're doing. This is both of our first shows in the ACA Free Thought Library. You can see our lovely book collection around here. This is where we've been broadcasting the nonprofits for months now, and where you've probably seen the last few episodes, one or two with host Matt Dillahunty, and one with Jeff D making a quick return appearance. But this is my first time, and if things seem a little spotty, that's what I'm expecting.
Yeah. I think we're still working our way through some kinks in this.
Right.
Yeah. Like I'm hearing a lot of room noise on my...
Yeah. You know, you can turn your thing down if you want.
Right.
Today is Sunday, August 23rd, 2015. We're a live call-in public access television show. We're a live internet-only show for the time being until the public access studio gets back up and running in a few months, and then who knows, maybe. But we are still running out of Austin, Texas, and we are still dedicated to promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. We're available through both live streaming at ustream.tv and at YouTube, so you can hunt down either one of those channels that strikes your fancy. The official Atheist Experience website is www.atheist-experience.com. And the blog is freethoughtblogs.com/AXP, where you can comment on every show if you want to, or you can also email us at tv@atheist-community.org. If you like this show, please check out our related podcast, The Non-Prophets, currently airing on the first and third Wednesdays of the month. You can find links at the Atheist Experience website, and the next Non-Prophets will be recorded...
This coming Wednesday?
Sometime, no, not this Wednesday. The Wednesday after that, whatever.
Okay.
Since we're not at the studio anymore, don't come to El Arroyo after the show because nobody will be there. They still deserve your patronage, I guess. But just down the street, there's a Mexican place called Chico's, which that's CHEKO''S. It's on, what are we on? What street are we on now? Koenig Lane.
Just how green we are at all of this. It's like we move from one building to another, and it's like, what end is up? How do we do things? Yeah. But no, that's Koenig Lane right there.
Right. By the way, I'm not seeing any calls on the line yet, and neither of us really has anything prepared. So we're going to be vamping for a bit.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, so that's another thing we're missing here is our usual call box, where we have nice lit lights.
Yeah, that's true. What's going to happen this time is we're going to yell at the studio, "Hey, I see you have this fellow on the line," and then they're going to fumble around because you're going to be Skyping in, and we can only take one Skype caller at a time. So as we decide who to take, they will quick dial you up, and we'll be really upset if you just wandered away from your computer while we were waiting on you. Oh, there they are. Okay, I had to refresh.
Suddenly, yeah.
Okay. A couple of things coming up, actually. Next weekend, I believe, is the Austin Pride Festival. and every year the ACA has a booth there, so come on down and say hi if you are in the neighborhood. Let me see. Wednesday, September 9th, I've agreed to speak for the Secular Student Alliance at the University of Texas. So if you're local in town, you should check that out. I'm going to be giving my skepticism talk.
Okay.
What's going on with you, man?
Well, I guess not a whole heck of a lot.
Sorry, go on.
No, go ahead. Because I really don't have much, just in terms of working and just doing various things and living life. So nothing that would excite this crowd.
Okay.
But
well, you're a famous filmmaker.
Well, not just yet, but I have gotten back to work after a while. It got really badly derailed with my dad passing earlier this year.
Very sorry about that.
And then of course summer came along and a lot of folks weren't available. But yes, September is a busy month, very busy month. So
September is a busy month for the ACA too, because we always do the Bat Cruise every year, which is the coolest thing that we do all year. People come from all over the country to hang out on a boat at sunset in Austin and watch some of the largest urban bat population in North America, I believe, come out at sunset. Some of those people could be you.
That was just so slickly done.
Yeah.
Russell. I'm just
and we're not in the public access studio, so we don't have any rules for promoting shit. So,
that's right, yeah.
You know, you should totally buy a ticket and come here and be on the ACA Bat Cruise.
That isn't this free speech thing just fantastic?
Free speech.
Yes. Yeah. Do we have a special guest, a speaker lined up for that event?
We do have a special guest.
That's usually our thing.
It is going to be Hina Databoy, who is a terrific speaker. I've met her at a few conventions. She is an ex-Muslim and an active member of the free thought community and got her hands in all kinds of things. So, that there's going to be a lecture before the Bat Cruise, and you should totally come to that too.
Yeah. Well,
I'm calling you to action now. Take that.
I'm sure that as we get a little closer to the date, we'll put details and updates and things like that on the blog, on the Facebook page. You know, we'll tweet things as necessary. But yeah, we'll make sure that you're fully informed as to. Yeah. Okay, so I realized I timed this wrong because while we were filling time, I should have said that we want to talk to Rune in San Rafael, California. Okay.
And so if Rune could say something when you're on, then go ahead and do that. But in the meantime, we're going to assume that everything that can go wrong will, and we're going to keep talking about stuff.
Because we're eternal optimists.
Yep.
What has been going on in the world of news and religious news lately? I mean, just apart from,
well,
because there's been, I guess, some things.
So, I don't know. On the nonprofits last week, I briefly mentioned, because so many people were asking me to mention, that this Ashley Madison hack.
The hack, yes.
Caught out some famous people, because now anybody can see if you have an account on this website that is specifically a dating site for people who are trying to cheat on their significant other. And a lot of people are super gleeful about the fact that what's his face, the Duggar guy.
Well, there's a couple of guys. There's Josh Duggar. You know, like if it weren't bad enough, he's a child molester. Guess what else? He's
no, the child molester thing is worse.
Yeah, it definitely is.
I mean, come on.
And then there is this also this Christian YouTube family values dude, Sam Rader, who got caught out.
Actually, I was bringing this up because I don't want us to be super gleeful about breaches of computer security. So here we are, just
that's
spreading it around some more.
I made on my own Facebook page too, which is that
I guess Rune is gone, so we're gonna take Jamar in Buffalo, New York, whenever we can. But as Oh wait,
Rune's
is he on the line? Oh, okay. Are you there? I can't hear him.
Oh, hang on a second.
There he is. Hello?
Hi.
I am in existence as far as I know.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. You're on. We're still just kind of trying to fight with all this technical stuff. But go ahead with your question. Thanks for calling.
I'm just gonna ignore that it's decided to not work with my speakers. I mean my headphones. So sorry if it sounds weird.
Okay.
I expected it. I did work with my mic, but it apparently didn't do.
Well, you're cutting in and out, but go ahead and ask your question.
So, it's about magic, obviously, if you saw my topic. But a while ago, Tracy talked like rules and how magic means something that exists outside the physical laws of the universe, similar to the supernatural or God. But recently I was thinking about similar stuff to that, and I was thinking that if magic existed in a universe like it does in some TV shows and stories and video games and similar, like, you know, making fire and being able to teleport and stuff, the laws of the it wouldn't exist outside of the laws of the universe. The rules of the universe would be so that it would allow that to happen. And I was that could be, because for some reason my brain is weird, but I guess that's that it could be used to, like, in some way, indirectly disprove a God that exists outside the laws of the universe, at least when we're talking about our current universe. And I was wondering what you guys think about what I just said.
Sounds like it would make a cool science fiction story, I guess.
Well, I'm in general agreement, I think, with the premise that you're working from, which is that if we were to discover, like, have actual observable, testable evidence of phenomena that were considered paranormal or supernatural, like ghosts, or magical powers like telekinesis and moving things with your mind. If we were ever to actually have something like that we could quantify and test in a scientific way, then what would happen, what it would mean, among other things, would be that those things would no longer be, you know, supernatural phenomenon. They would no longer be magical phenomenon. They would be new discoveries of,
unless we came up with a different definition of that word.
Yeah, but I mean, they would be a new discovery of something that we have become aware of that exists within the natural world. It would be something new within the natural world that we were, you know, heretofore unaware of. So in that sense, I think I kind of agree with your premise. Science kind of does this a lot. You know, there are all sorts of wacky, crazy things just having to do with the universe that physicists and astronomers are constantly discovering that rewrite the rules of everything that we think we've known prior. And but it's part of our universe. You know, it's something that we have to look at and say our knowledge and our understanding of the natural universe has just been expanded even further. It's not as if, okay, well, we've learned everything we need to know about the natural world, but now here's this new magical world that we can now study. No, we haven't learned everything about our natural world, and that's the part of our knowledge that we've built upon.
And that's like, I think you're completely right. In that, but the reason, part of why this question came to my head, is I hear people, and like generally religious people, talking about miracles and God and stuff, similar stuff like that, and how it doesn't exist in the universe. It goes against the laws of the universe. It's above it.
Okay.
Or whatever you use.
Yeah.
This call is kind of choppy, so I think we're going to move on to another caller.
Yeah, but I think my experience has been that people who make claims about miracles and other magical phenomenon don't really have. You try to press them, you try to pin them down for something in a clear definition of what that sort of thing is, and they never really give you one. It's all just some feeling or this or that, you know. So I think it colloquially, it's something that people refer to when they don't really. It's something that has happened to them or that they think has happened to them that they think is extremely special. They don't really have a solid explanation for it, but you know, people being the way they are, we like to think that when good things happen to us, providence or whatever is shining down upon us and favoring us, and so they come up with that narrative in their heads to explain it. And so it's more that's more of a psychological thing, I would guess, than something to do with natural science and the actual universe. But yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, though.
Thanks for calling.
Thanks.
Yeah. Let's move on to Jamar in Buffalo, New York. And while we're doing that, what was I talking about?
That?
Yeah, as a computer engineer, I take threats of cyber security basically really seriously.
Oh, right. Okay.
And about like last year there was this big deal about these stolen nudes being basically taken off of I think it was Apple Cloud or something
iCloud,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah. And that was really bad and really unethical. And I think that it would be a good idea to have a consistent set of principles that doesn't involve like seeking out these illegally obtained private and sensitive information, even if it is, going to dig up dirt against people we don't like.
Yeah, well, I read an editorial recently online that made an interesting point that this is just sort of something about vigilantism is that there's a point towards which, if it is in service of something that, there's a consensus that it's a righteous goal, folks will be okay with it. But then what always happens is that it always just tends to go a little bit too far. So you can look, and someone tried to make this point in my own Facebook page comments, tried to draw this equivalency. And I said, look, okay, there's one, it could be one thing to be supportive of something like the Ed Snowden leaks. Where there was a real issue that I think, we as citizens ought to have a right to know, this notion of domestic surveillance upon, and to what degree our own government might be invading our privacy.
Yeah, and that's an issue where, in principle, we're not sure if the if the laws are being applied appropriately.
Yeah.
And in that case, some people were kind of happy that these leaks were coming out and basically exposing this stuff.
Yeah. But then you get into something like just hacking some dating cheating website just so you can laugh at the hypocrites, and it's sort of like, yes, okay, we all get a little self-righteous laugh over Josh Duggar's latest whatever he's done.
Sure.
But again, at what cost? I mean, this is now a situation of a hack that has not really exposed anything that's a need-to-know situation for our own sense of citizen security and basic rights.
Yeah, exactly.
And in fact, it's an explicit violation
of that.
There is
nobody out there laughing at this thing who doesn't have information on the internet somewhere that, if it was brought to light, would be incredibly embarrassing.
So.
Okay, so sorry, the calls actually connect a lot quicker, and we're just filling time. So, Jamar, hey, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Sorry to keep you waiting. What's up?
Long time watcher of your show, first time call. Well, first time call to the show. I used the phone before, but
thanks for calling.
Off what you said about the leak. You're talking about the Ashley Madison leak, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, another thing I want to add to that is where, like, homosexuality, for example, is punishable with death, like in Saudi Arabia, or adultery.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Risk, like, their lives are at risk because of this leak. So it's not just a trivial ha-ha laugh these people think. It's actually serious.
Yeah, it's very, very serious.
Yeah, exactly. So what's on your mind today?
I have a question. Because my mom's a Christian, I'm an atheist. I came out as an atheist to my mom like a while ago. She was cool with it and everything. But every time I try to point out to her like the fucked up things in the Bible, read the full context. Well, I gotta read the whole chapter so I can understand. You might not be getting the full message of it or whatever. How do I respond to when she talks like that?
I mean, first of all, in many cases, it's fair to say that something changes its meaning when it's put in context. I mean, creationists in particular are notorious for taking a single sentence out of a long discussion. Like, for instance, there's the very famous example of Darwin in Origin of Species saying something to the effect that it seems like the idea that something as complex as an eye would be could evolve naturally would be absurd, and then creationists love to quote that by itself, and then they leave out all the rest of it where he goes on to say, but here's how it would happen, and that is a case where, sure enough, when you take something out of context, it changes the meaning to something completely opposite. But when it comes to the Bible, one of the ways you can respond to that, if she's saying you're taking that out of context, because saying you're taking something out of context isn't some magical incantation that automatically makes everything you say invalid. The thing to do at that point is say, all right, I got a Bible right here. Let's read the context, and you tell me what, here's the sentence before it, here's the sentence after it, here's the whole paragraph, here's the whole chapter. What in this paragraph changes the meaning of it from what I said? And I mean, maybe that would lead to some fruitful discussions, because or maybe what your mom will wind up saying is, I don't know, I just know that you've got it wrong.
Yeah,
She's even read the Bible. Like, she might know a few things, and she might read it here and there. But every time I quote like a certain passage or something like homosexuals should be stoned to death. It says that. I mean, it's an abomination, but God's not that cruel. And
well, I don't know. He did drown the entire population of the world at one point.
Right. And of course, the context of that verse does not change things at all. It just lists a whole bunch of other stuff that is also an abomination. And that doesn't tell you anything about, God didn't really mean abomination.
But I think you kind of answered your own question just now, because what is usually happening when someone says, "Oh, you're taking that out of context," or something similar, is that you've caught them out. You've caught them with their pants down, and they haven't got a better answer. And so it's just a thing that they say reflexively because they have not, in fact, they haven't read the context themselves. And if you were to sit down and read the entire passage, and you would say, all right, well, how does a broader context actually change this? How does a broader context justify this? Like, if you understand why God sent the two bears to kill the 42 kids, was that even remotely a good reason for such an overblown reaction to just mocking a man for being bald, right?
Yeah, and you could also say, like, look, Mom, if you're not going to read this book as thoroughly as I have, then what business do you have actually saying that you're basing your life on it? Obviously, you're just believing whatever you want to believe. And it has nothing to do with what's in this book.
Another thing which she always says like I point out something in the Bible that's messed up or whatever. She'll say, "Oh, I have to read the whole chapter or whatever because God is just trying to there's just a story that he's telling. This is not God actually advocating. It's just a story in the Bible."
Yeah, I think those are all just defensive answers, right? I mean, I think that you're asking her questions about her beliefs that she has never had to, think about. And it's probably making her a little bit uncomfortable that you are making her think about them. And so she's just giving you the answers that pop in her head that she thinks are adequate to defend her beliefs. But I think that based on that, probably your continued approach should be, all right, well, I have read the passage more extensively. I don't really see why any of these passages could be morally or intellectually justified. Here are my reasons, and then try to turn it into a discussion, and you'll find out very quickly whether or not that's a discussion she's willing to have.
Right. Or you could say, well, yeah, I agree it's just a story. In fact, the whole book is just a story. Why would you base your life on something like that?
Yeah, why should this story...
On these very bad stories.
Why should this story be my moral compass for my own life?
She probably said something like, well, God's trying to teach you a lesson in this story. The lesson is blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like, and a story like saying Sodom and Gomorrah, I don't see what positive...
Yeah, I mean, what...
The lesson is do what I say or I'll fuck your shit up.
Yeah, what would the lesson be, and what makes it... And without this, why would I not understand the lesson that I'm trying to be taught without having this this drastic consequence take place? Why is it necessary to blow up an entire city for me to understand that this or that thing, a particular thing, is wrong? And just because God decided to blow up an entire city because he didn't care for, say, people being gay, well, does that still mean that what they were doing was exactly that wrong? Was God's response right? Because they're, once again, they're working on the premise of, well, God's reaction to anything is right by default. Is it really? Okay, here's the lesson God is trying to teach. But wait a minute, is God even in the right in how he is reacting to this sort of thing? So yeah, I think your mom has just accepted a lot of things that she has been taught, and which is how religious people do things, and you're making her question, and you're making her have doubts, and it's making her uncomfortable, and keep it up.
Yeah, people don't change their minds all at once. I mean, it takes a long period of thinking and being bad at answering these questions.
All right, well, thank you guys.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks for calling. See ya. And we're going to move on to Aaron in Baltimore, Maryland. And while we're doing that, we're going to tweet things, apparently. So, let's see. It's not easy to topic switch on the fly like this.
That's true. Yeah.
But, takes a while to bring those up.
So we'll get in the rhythm of it. I mean, we're still kind of new at this. So.
Yeah. This past week, what we should do is bring a bunch of little individual anecdotes. Oh wait, I'm hearing myself echoing now. Hello, Aaron? Aaron? No.
Bear with us. Hi.
Aaron, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, make sure that you don't have us playing on the stream separately while you're at the call at the same time. And everybody who's calling in should remember that.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, barely.
Okay, hello. I can hear you.
Hi.
Excuse me. I just had a quick question. I'm a former Christian. I'm 33 years old. Was a Christian from the time I was 5 until about maybe 27. At that point, I was introduced to other forms of, as they call, expanded consciousness, like New Thought and Unitarian Universalism and that kind of thing. And as I really thought about my feelings, what I realized is that I would be pretty much considered an atheist with respect to where I am now. My beliefs are lack of, yes, I have a complete positive outlook on life every day, as many people do. But my question was, as I thought about the term, the thing that came to mind as far as an analogy is that if I'm a person that does not identify with playing basketball, I'm not a basketball player, I wouldn't be considered a non-basketball player. And it might not be relevant to this term, but I'm just wondering what your thoughts are. Sometimes I wonder if the term atheist kind of puts us more in a box, more so in a box, as opposed to just being regular human beings who have positive outlooks on life, but just who don't believe in.
Well, first of all, I'm worried that it would sound kind of condescending if I just said, "Hi, I'm a regular human being," because I don't believe in God. Well, I mean, I don't think your basketball analogy quite works because, I mean, my first question would be, is it common for people to not play basketball?
Mm-hmm.
So, but is it common for people to not believe in God?
Right.
Well, no. I mean,
Right.
it is common for people to not play basketball. Most people, though, assume by default that you are going to be a Christian or at least religion of some kind. If you talk to a random person in the United States, it's it is kind of a form of unidentified privilege where, for instance, in a lot of cases, people who are describing someone they met on the street, they'll say something like, "Hey, I met a guy on the street. He was kind of tall." But if he was a black person, they would specify, "Hey, I met a black person today," and they never say like, "I met a white person today," because people have this unconscious bias that they assume that you're probably talking about a white guy, and so that's their default position. Am I making sense here?
Yes, that does make sense. I was wondering if.
So oftentimes when you say, "Hey, I met somebody who doesn't believe in God," that's an odd bit of extra information most of the time, and that's why we tend to self-identify as atheists.
Right. That definitely makes sense to me, and I guess there's no problem if the individual doesn't have a problem. Sometimes I feel it's kind of unfair connotation it gets, as you all know from my just experience. Is often misunderstood. Is often misunderstood people who are just educated about it. And I feel like you're into a box. And now I do know that wouldn't be because it would be more so because of what happens in society. So I definitely in that. I just felt as though I feel as though I guess that sometimes you're forced by religion to look at something else just because of what you just said, which is that's the dominant thought. But I guess in the end, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, we've got I think bandwidth issues, and you're starting to be really, really choppy, and it's hard to understand you.
Yeah, sorry.
It's just technical stuff. But the Sam Harris, I think has long tried to make the argument that atheist shouldn't even be a word. After all, we don't have a word for people who don't believe in unicorns and the tooth fairy and what have you. And while I can see his point generally and the point of people who hold that view, it is still a fact that we live in a world in which theism specifically has a tremendous amount of power and influence over the real lives of real people. In a way that believing in unicorns does not, right? No one is crashing airplanes into buildings because they've been told that they get to ride around on 72 unicorns after they die. So in that regard, because theism is so powerful, being able to identify as someone who rejects that belief system and the ideologies that come from having those belief systems, I think is relevant and I think is necessary. We need to work towards a world in which the word atheism is irrelevant. I think that would be a fantastic goal, but we are not in that world at present.
I find it really useful to be able to identify myself easily as, hey, I'm an atheist, and people have some idea of what that means easily, and it's easy to discuss it and correct any misconceptions that they may have. But a lot of people who object to the term atheist, like people who might complain that, hey, there's a billboard up there that says atheist on it, and that's offensive to me, are in some sense, trying to take away the language that people use to describe an issue that's important in their lives. And that's downright Orwellian in a way.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate you answering that question, and I do understand what you're saying. I also do understand Sam Harris's position. So thank you guys, and keep up the good work.
Yeah,
All right,
thanks for
thanks for
calling.
calling.
And anyway, folks at home, we're going to, we're still going to be having these, technical teething issues, but we got a good crew, and they're going to work on it, and just,
Yeah. So, okay. So, see you later, Aaron. And we're going to pick up Eric, who does not have a country specified right now, or a state. But anyway, just a reminder, if you're watching live, that right now the place that we've been going to after the show is Chico's, and it is on West Koenig Lane. That's Koenig, and Chico's is CHEKO''S. So we'll be there after the show, like we've been to El Arroyo before, and we'll arrive there around 6 p.m. Well, actually, we'll arrive there like 10 minutes after the show ends, because we could practically walk there from here.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully we're getting Eric up on the line. Let's see. I did a show recently with Phil Ferguson, who I have met like 3 times now at conventions. He does a podcast about skepticism and money called The Phil Ferguson Show, and we had a fun time talking about a couple of my favorite topics, which were Amway and and alternative alternative currencies like Bitcoin came up a bit. So that
all
that
these
was
little
entertaining.
these perfect little interests of yours specifically.
Yes.
You're interested very much in financial scams.
Right.
And so before Bitcoin,
definitely am.
there was the Liberty Dollar. Remember that?
You guys got Eric coming up on the line soon? Go on.
And of course, I think you were sort of a pioneer, online activist when it came to your Amway page.
My first web page I made in 1995, which was not usual back then, but I was a computer science student, and that. I was briefly tempted by that thing until I realized what a terrible deal it was. So I hope we get hate mail about that. What else is going on with you? Because we don't have Eric yet. If Eric's not available, you can always put on Matthew in Bedford. Crickets.
Yeah.
What else is going on in the news this week?
How about these GOP candidates?
How about those GOP candidates?
It's just
we're still a non-political show.
Yes,
so,
but we can
mostly.
Yeah, it's
No
call.
Okay.
Okay.
So is Matthew available? Okay, we need more Skypers. I hope that.
Hi. Oh, we have. I just heard someone. Hi. Who's this?
Hello. This is Matthew.
Matthew.
Hi,
Hi.
Matthew.
Thanks for calling.
How's it going?
Oh, just fine.
Okay. Hey, can somebody remind me? Like, is the Skype address showing up on the screen? By the way, can you tell me? Is it just the Atheist Experience, all one word? Okay, that's where you're gonna Skype to, and that is where Matthew has Skyped to, and we're glad to have you on.
Thanks for having me. I actually called in, and you guys were both the hosts when I called in, but I had called in after the show was over, so it wasn't on air. But I asked the same question I'm asking this time, which was about political and religious violence. And I know Martin Wagner had given a really good answer to me, and I actually wanted to see if you'd be willing to reiterate his answer, like what he had discussed last time.
No, we're different people, so we're going to give a terrible answer.
Yeah, no, I'm actually. You're going to have to refresh my memory a bit on the
I have
discussion.
no idea what you asked.
Yeah, because it's actually it's been a while since I've been on the show, but I go ahead.
What's your question?
My question was, how do we differentiate between political and religious violence? And it was along the lines of like talking about the debate between Noam Chomsky and Sam Harris and like Bill Maher, Glenn Greenwald, and those kind of people.
I probably have a different opinion about this than Matt does, but I do not think there's a big difference between political and religious violence. It's basically obsession with a particular ideology to the point that you are willing to get violent for it. What do you think, Martin?
Well, at a baseline level, I think that's dead right. I think that. Okay. I think I know what you may be talking about in terms of like the answer I gave you before. Political and religious violence go hand in hand very frequently. At the same time, I think that it is. There are people out there, for example, who blame Islamist violence solely on the fact that the actors are Muslim, right? And they're working on some sort of Quranic decree that all infidels and heathens must be slaughtered out of hand, and that's really all that they're working on. And so, and I think that those people who believe that about Islamist violence really are missing the big picture, because it's not simply that. There are political realities such as, for example, the West's relationship to, for example, the Arab world in the Middle East versus Israel. There are issues pertaining to who gets the oil and everything else.
Which is not to say that we would ever blame
no
the victims of religious or political violence on the people who are the recipients of the victims.
Yeah,
but oftentimes the motivations are more complex than people make them out to be.
Right. It's never just one thing, and that's usually what I point out. And of course, whenever I point this out, those same people who don't really want to hear that the issues are more complex, they ridiculously will accuse you of being like an apologist for Islam or something like that, which is just mindless. It's just an acknowledgement that what is going on is multifaceted. Because if it were just Muslims hating on anybody who wasn't Muslim just to do it, we would have seen this kind of Islamist terrorism, this kind of violence that we have seen essentially since the rise of Al-Qaeda and 9/11. We'd have been seeing this kind of thing specifically for ages, right? And we haven't really quite seen it in this extreme form until quite recently. There's ISIS is just it's next level stuff that's never really been experienced before, and it's recent. Again, I lived in when I was a child. I lived in Dubai for 3 years. With my family. My dad was in the oil business. And so, I had this firsthand interaction with Muslims on their own, in their own turf. At that time, you would not have found a more, pro-American, pro-free enterprise friendly bunch of folks, right? So if Islam is just this thing that, like a hypodermic needle, makes all of its adherents go, oh, you're not Muslim, well, I have to kill you now. I probably wouldn't be sitting in this chair. So it's very short-sighted to just blame extremely complex, events on a sole cause.
Right. There are a lot of different things that go into people's motivations for acting. There are, religious doctrine is certainly one of them, and there have historically been no shortage of, for instance, Christian terrorist acts.
Yeah. And it can't be denied that it is the madrasas over there, and it is the religion that is being used as the tool to radicalize. These young fighters and strap bombs to themselves and things like that.
Right.
So it is a tool. It is an element.
So you've got religious ideology, and then you have the degree to which you take that religious ideology seriously. And also, some people are maybe more prone to commit acts of violence, to look for excuses to commit acts of violence than others. There are certainly a lot of non-religiously motivated acts that I would refer to as terrorism that have taken place in the United States periodically. Like, for instance, when somebody goes and I think the most recent one that was kind of a big deal was that some guy went into a theater that was playing the Amy Schumer movie Trainwreck, which was hilarious, by the way, but that's not the point. And he did he succeed in shooting a lot of people? I can't keep them all straight.
I think he shot I think he only had a couple of fatalities. He shot several people. I don't think there were as many as fatalities as say like the Batman shooting or anything like that.
Yeah, but I mean, there are a lot of complex things that go into people's motivation for doing very stupid things, and religion certainly is a big factor in a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not saying that religious violence isn't a thing, but it's just saying that in most cases it's just one ingredient in a giant toxic pie. Yeah. I like that imagery, toxic pie. I like that imagery. I'm gonna.
It sounds.
So I guess
Go ahead.
the other part of my question is like, I've heard y'all, well, maybe not necessarily you two, but the Atheist Experience hosts or whatever talk about. Whenever people, they'll claim like, atheist regimes have caused, such and such violence or whatever. And they'll talk about like, that was more of like statist violence, or that was like communism or this or that. And those kinds of dogmas. And so I guess what I'm wondering is like, if you think like, for instance, that a lot of the violence that happens in like, say like the Middle East nowadays, more modern violence or whatever, terrorism, that kind of thing. Do you think that a big part of that is mostly due to like state violence, like coming from possibly the United States and its allies, like directed towards, and all that, the history that we've had with that? Like, is there a state interest?
I mean, are you asking, is the violence that's being committed state-sponsored violence, or are these?
Or is it a reaction to?
Yeah, I guess I'm not quite sure
political?
What. Yeah.
I mean, I think if there's one thing I hope to make clear from our other answers is it's all that stuff, and it's maybe above my pay grade to give, which is nothing, to give one single answer to that question.
Yeah, let me try to see if I phrase this just right. In situations where, because this is always, it's a big point that Christians love to bring up. Well, Joseph Stalin killed, 28 billion and 3 people, so, take that, atheists. First off, I don't think, it's always good to point out, look, I don't know that any of us as atheists are claiming that atheism is the path to some sort of moral perfection, in the same way that religionists like to claim that adopting their religion is a path towards that sort of thing. But setting aside what may or may not have motivated guys like Stalin and Pol Pot and what have you, you can say to them, all right, I'm an atheist, and I'm not out there, launching pogroms to, slaughter 20 million people. I mean, I can barely balance a checkbook. So, but I just have no interest in that sort of thing. So then, so what do you have to say to that? So obviously, if you can get, it is entirely possible, an atheist megalomaniac who is a violent psychotic dictator. Well, here we are being atheists, not being that kind of megalomaniac. And if you get the Christian to acknowledge that point, then so it's like, yes, so, you can, so that's why, yes, it's important to say you can't, so why would you think that the actions of Osama bin Laden would represent every single Muslim? Why would you think that the actions of Torquemada, or a particular, Catholic, child molesting priest would represent, all Christians or all Catholics or what have you? It's important, I think, to recognize the crimes of religions and the crimes of ideologies. But I would like to think that atheists are maybe a little bit more careful in trying not to make a blanket, a statement that everyone is guilty by association of these sorts of deeds. But all I could say is that if some atheist came out and did horrible crimes and said this is all because I'm an atheist, I would still call that person a bad man and an asshole, and I would seek to have him prosecuted and whatever else. It would. Yeah. That he would be another atheist would have no bearing on that.
Right.
Whatever excuse he wanted to make.
I'm going to put our money where our mouth is.
Yeah.
There have been cases where people came out, where people who were clearly atheists committed terrible crimes and may or may not have been motivated by those opinions, like that Craig Hicks guy, like last year, who shot a bunch of Muslim kids. It was not entirely conclusive what his motive was, but certainly he said on his page he was a fan of the Atheist Experience. He
had various anti-Muslim rants.
He killed some Muslims. And I'm not saying that he was motivated by that, but I do say, to the extent that he might have been, that's terrible.
Yeah.
So, we are not honor-bound to defend him just because he's one of us.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we going to move on?
I think we should, yes.
Thanks for calling.
Yes, thanks very much for the call.
And we're going to go to Addison in Lancaster. And in the meantime...
California.
Vamp. We got all these books here. We should have something to fill time with.
That we do, yeah.
I would sure like to have multiple lines, just like on the show.
You know what we could do now
what?
the show, now that we're in our own building and it's awesome and it's our space?
What could we do?
Hello?
We could have a massive pizza right here and beers and, sorry. Hi, you're on.
Hello, guys.
Hi.
How you
Is
doing?
this Addison?
Hello, yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up?
All right. I have a question today. It is about how do you rationalize people who have a... Hello?
Yeah,
Yes?
you're on. We're listening.
Okay.
Yeah, keep going.
My question was how do you rationalize the concept of a character of God that doesn't go with his preconceived ideas and notions? For example, you have the God who is all-knowing and all-loving, but then creates people just to send them to hell.
How do I deal with that?
Yeah.
I don't believe in it.
Yeah. I mean, we're not the ones who rationalize.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm saying more like when it comes up, how do you like talk about that or discuss it?
Well, look, there are some atheists who get bogged down in the particulars of the Bible and nitpick different points and say, oh, look, there's an inconsistency here. And that's all well and good as far as it goes. But really, the only thing you need to say to any set of beliefs somebody comes up with that you don't believe in is, I don't believe in that. Why should I? Mm-hmm. And that is the basis for a lot of discussions about disagreements.
Yeah, I usually like to leave it up to the theist I am talking to define his God for me before I can offer my objections to it.
And then say, what makes you think that thing is real?
Yeah.
I've tried that, and where I live, for example, it's like the most Christian place in California. It's like to the extent that I've lost a job because I was an atheist.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear it.
Yeah, it sucks.
That happens.
It happens, and I just kind of stare at the person, and I'm like, well, because they're like, why do you hate God? And I was like, why do you hate leprechauns? It's...
Yeah, the inability to distinguish not believing in something with hating it.
It just cracks me up because by that whole concept, everybody in the world hates Santa Claus except for really small children.
Right.
But
well, I hate that bastard. He ate all my cookies when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
Stupid.
The question, to put it in a bit more context, I guess, it's out here, like they see me like the theist, and it's kind of like, ooh, I'm gonna go play with this guy. And it tends to bog down into the conversations about just, well, you have to love God because I'm the kind of person who I'm used to this, so I like carry a Bible in my backpack and I'll cite them like what I'm saying. And they can't stand that.
No, there you go.
They can't stand that at all.
If you're pissing them off, it sounds like you're winning. So what's the problem?
Yeah. I think
it always bogs down into well, God loves you and He knows everything, and they just, I'm trying to find a different way of saying, well, your deity still kind of knows I'm not going to believe, and He's sending me to hell knowing
I
this.
already think that's a dicey tack to be taking, because that is granting that the God might exist and discussing what the God is like. And really, all you need to do is repeat after me, I don't believe in that thing, why should I?
Yeah. I mean, you can say, I understand that is what you believe. I don't. If you think that I should believe that there's a God, if you think I should believe He loves me and whatever it was you just said,
then
show
give me
yeah.
a convincing reason.
Yeah, convince me.
Not just a it feels good to you reason, but a reason that would be persuasive enough to make you believe that in the Mormon angel Moroni, if he existed.
Oh.
It sounds like you have a little bit of experience with that too. Yeah.
But reading the Book of Mormon isn't the point. The point is that there are a whole bunch of different beliefs that people believe, and pick your poison. Throwing people against competing religions is often really useful. I mean, ask them, hey, have you considered converting to Islam? Well, why not?
I actually have, and I've pointed out to a Christian that statistically they're going to go to hell because there's 41,000 denominations of Christianity. And that just kind of ends the conversation, and they throw a hussy fit and just start saying Jesus loves you.
Well, then again, you win. No problem. I mean, if you're expecting all these conversations to end with the Christian saying, gosh, you're right, that's a really good point. I guess I'm an atheist now.
I'm expecting them to at least end with some semblance of a human discussion and not being treated like I'm demonically possessed.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
if I was in
can't always
Texas,
expect
I might
that.
understand that, but I'm in California, an hour from Los Angeles.
Yeah, well, I mean, are you close to, like, Los Angeles? Did you say
Yeah.
Los Angeles? Yeah, I mean, I know there's some
I'm like
very
an hour
right-wing
from
areas
there.
around there. There's Orange County is one. I mean, some very religious areas, I should say.
I live in like the area that makes LA County count as a purple district versus like the whole city, just because it's so damn Republican out here. And it's just like really ultra conservative and Christian-y. Like one of the bars by our house, you can't join there if you don't believe in God.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, and they claim that they're the oppressed ones, right?
Yep.
You know, that's
Boo-hoo, poor Christians.
Yeah. I just, at the end of the day, you just need to kind of show that they're not phasing you with whatever, little emotional.
They're not. I actually ask them every single time that we talk. Can you convince me? Please do. Give me evidence. I mean, my life would be so much easier if I believed in God again.
Yeah, but
a lot of things would make more sense.
Yeah. But I mean, it's okay to end a conversation just by saying, well, I guess we don't agree about that.
Yeah.
And, if there is no useful conversation going on, that's not your problem. You don't have to talk to everybody who wants to talk to you. You have the right to pick your own conversations. Hey, guy.
That is true.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I think it's time for the call to end because you guys have shows.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, I guess we
I wanted to say one last thing. I've been
Yeah.
watching you guys for a while, and the show is a good chunk of the reason why I outgrew my faith. So thank you guys from personal
Well, thank
level.
you. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm happy to help.
Then keep talking to people you want to, and maybe some people you influence will be like you eventually. But most won't.
And
that's okay.
while it may not seem that way, you are getting them to think about this stuff.
Yeah.
It's just so and you are causing them discomfort. You are forcing them. You're putting little cracks in the walls of their comfort zone, and that's good. That'll be good for them, even though they don't realize it right now.
So I guess that's our show. Since
Uh,
they tell me the credits are up, or he just said.
Oh, are the credits up?
well,
Okay.
But
No,
I
they're
would
not,
say
yeah.
It's 3:30, so
Oh,
that
yeah.
tends to
Okay.
be around the time.
Yeah,
Well,
we've been on for 1 hour, and I think that
let's
because
drop
we're
Addison. We can do whatever you want, as far
Yeah.
as I'm concerned. I mean,
we can
you know,
go
we
a bit
don't
longer.
have to go by studio stuff. So we're already flaunting a bunch of the rules that we'd have if we were in the public access studios. Do you?
do this later.
Do I have to make this decision myself? Somebody should have made
Well,
it.
you are the host. I mean,
Okay.
Our
I'm gonna
studio
say we
audience
take
seems fine.
One more call just to prove we're our own guys. And I say we're gonna take. I'm gonna actually pick someone, not necessarily the top one. Steve. Steve in South Korea. Really? Okay. Hey, Steve. Or I forgot. There's a delay. Yeah, but we're gonna take this one more call, and then we're gonna wrap it up whenever it ends. Cool with you?
let's go. Yeah.
Okay.
Indeed. Yes. Indeed.
Yeah, so whenever Steve is on the line, just blurt something right out. And in the meantime, I'm going to look at our amazing
Fascinated by
collection of books
our
that we have.
books. Yeah.
Let's see. So we have Attack of the Theocrats by Sean Faircloth.
That is a fun book. Yeah.
I've never read it.
He was here. He spoke to us at one point.
That's
yes.
right.
Sometime
yeah.
back. Sometime back.
This, however, this right here, Carl Sagan, The Demon Haunted World.
He's
this
the
is
guy.
like my favorite book. This is the
That's-
book when people say, "What should I read? I'm a new atheist." I'm like, read this book.
That's always
It's not an atheist book per se.
It's critical thinking, skepticism. It's the basics. How to
Yeah,
evaluate.
and that is really what everybody needs.
Hi, is this
the
Steve?
most. Steve.
Yes, it is.
Hey, Steve.
Thank you for calling us from far away. How are you?
Sorry, I gotta turn off the steam for a minute.
Yeah. Okay,
What
what's
you
your
playing?
question?
Oh, hi. Well, I
Hello.
talked with a friend, and then normally talks about the possibility of being a higher being,
Uh-huh.
and then he says something about like a coin flip, like it's 50-50, and then the heads is there is one, and tails is there isn't one.
Mm.
And then like the coin has been flipped continuously, and only the one that says there isn't one has appeared, but that doesn't mean that the other side doesn't exist.
Your friend has a very bad understanding of how probability works.
Yeah, this is your field specifically. I think.
Well, I am a computer science
Yes.
master. But one of my favorite reasons why that 50-50 thing is wrong is you consider this. What would this guy say is the odds that a unicorn specifically exists?
I wouldn't know for sure.
Well,
I
but
did talk about Russell's teapot analogy.
Well, but I mean, you said he thinks everything is 50-50, right?
Oh, okay, all right.
All right, so the chance that a unicorn exists is 50-50, right? What about the chance a leprechaun exists?
I see. All right, no.
Also
or he'll think so.
50-50, right? So what about the chance that like shoemaker or fairies, let's say fairies exist? That's 50-50 too, right? So you got unicorns, leprechauns, fairies. They're all 50-50. And when you multiply out the chances, what are the odds that some magical creature exists? They're 7/8. That doesn't sound right. So the chance that unicorns or fairies or leprechauns exists, if you multiply out all those probabilities, turns out to be 7/8. And So when you arbitrarily assign these probabilities like this, you are making very weird, specific claims about the nature of the universe that don't really make any sense. Like, this guy is basically saying that it's practically guaranteed when you add in all the other possible imaginary monsters, like vampires and werewolves and something, that it's almost guaranteed that something magic exists. And that doesn't smell right. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand.
And if you, isn't it the case that if you want to make, a probabilistic claim of any kind, you at least have to be working off of some kind of data set?
Mm-hmm. Does this guy gamble?
Yeah.
Because like, you could put a card up and say, or randomly draw a card and say, hey, I'll bet you even money that this is not the 2 of spades. Because it's either the 2 of spades or it's not the 2 of spades.
It's not even that.
Right?
It's not even that specific when they're talking about the existence or non-existence question. It would be, I think, the equivalent of walking into a casino with a big fistful of money and saying, "I'm going to hit the blackjack tables."
Right.
And there is a 50. It's 50-50. I'll either win lots of money or I won't.
Well, it's 50, worse than that. You go to the roulette table and you say, "I'm going to bet on 17 red because it's 50-50 that it'll come up."
Right.
I'm sure the casino owner would love this guy.
Either it will come up or it won't. So that is exactly, I think, where they're. That's the foundational mistake they're making in thinking how probability works.
Yeah, when you don't know something is true or not, you can't just pull a number out of your ass and say it's 50-50. There's a lot of work that goes into determining the actual probabilities of things. And we can't even begin to come up with the probability of whether there's a God or not because we don't have all the relevant information.
I see. Okay. I'll make sure to keep that in mind.
Okay, I hope it helps.
Okay.
Yeah,
and yeah, okay.
Okay.
But, well, thank you.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah, sure.
All right. You get it for
so another thing is, he said something about, like, if we draw on a 2D dimension, like it's the third dimension drawing upon the second dimension. So then he thinks that there's the fourth dimension, which is doing the same on the third dimension.
Okay, there could be. Actually, reading about like parallel dimensions, or I mean, higher dimensions is really pretty cool from a mathematical point of view. But what about it?
I don't know. I mean, like that's the analogy he made. Like we just don't know. But then there's pretty much a higher being that's doing the same what we do with drawing comics.
I can't really say what he's talking about, but I had a book that I loved as a kid called The Fourth Dimension, and it was by a science fiction author named Rudy Rucker. So I think you can still get that on Amazon.
Probably, yeah. Rudy's fantastic. It's really funny.
Yeah, oh, you like him too, huh?
Yeah. Although, this is just a general comment, nothing specifically to do with Steve. But we get, every time we get a call or we get an email from someone who describes, I've got a friend and he says this thing to me, and it's just some wild, spacey thing, right? I'm just sort of like, I just imagine all these Atheist Experience viewers with these fantastic collection of total stoner friends who just all the time want to talk about multiple dimensions and what if the universe, was an enormous Danish.
Yeah, sometimes the stoner friends are the people who write to us. We always get these things like, hey man, I have a new theory about how the universe could have come into existence. And I'm like, okay, don't use the word theory.
Yeah.
Because you are probably not right and you probably have not come up with any way to test
But this is my theory, which is mine.
All brontosauruses.
We're very thin on one end.
Yeah. Anyway, God, we're Monty Python geeks.
Yes.
I guess that's our show.
Yeah, it could be. Why not? What the hell?
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys at Chico's in, like 5 or 10 minutes.
And again, we're sorry for all this kind of technical looseness and flying by the seat of our pants. It will get better as we work on all of this.
Yes, but I promise it will be almost this bad next week and for many weeks to come.
But our crew is still awesome, and they bust their asses to help us do our show.
It's amazing we even have that working.
Thank you,
thanks,
crew.
Guys.
You do so well. And our audience, we have a little studio audience in our tiny little building.
Hello.
Hey, thank you for coming to watch us
Feel
blather.
like a zoo
Yes.
exhibit.
Yes.
Behind this glass wall here. But yeah, we'll see you next week. Maybe, probably, if we have enough.
Well, the
crew
glass is
do it
to
next
protect us so when we pump pathogens into the front room, it doesn't come through here. So,
Yeah, isn't that the thing that like destroys General Zod's superpowers or something? Okay, bye.
Oh yeah, we've got to do our zombie experiments somehow. Yeah. Oh well. Bye everyone. Thank you.